Hey, how y'all doing? This is Ryan Jackson from Ryan Jackson LLC. Hope you had a good day today. You know what they say about Mondays, but we're not going to say that. But I hope you all had a good day and I hope you're doing well. I'm going to get into the topic for this video. This past weekend, we lost Nichelle Nichols, who played Lieutenant Uhura on Star Trek. She was and in the Star Trek movies too. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful sister. She passed away at the age of 89, and we lost Boston Celtics legend, and in my opinion, and as far as I'm concerned, the NBA's greatest player of all time, Mr. Bill Russell. We lost him yesterday morning at the age of 88. Two incredible, beautiful people, black legends. They're icons as far as I'm concerned. They passed away this weekend. May their souls rest in peace. And we know that they will always, always leave a mark with us. I'm gonna get into Mr. Bill Russell. Start with him first. So he was born February 12th, 1934, in West Monroe, Louisiana. He moved to Oakland, out here in the Bay Area, which is not too far from me. Moved to Oakland in 1942. Him and his brother. He was 8 years old when he moved out here. He lost his mother at the age of 12, and his father was left to raise him, he and his brother. He attended McClymonds High School in 1948-49. That was his freshman year. And that's when he was a raw talent. Very tall, was a tall young man, tall for his age. And he even said that his skills wasn't that good. So he was cut, and the coach urged him, George Pauls, I think I'm saying his name right. George, last name is Powles, Pauls, I believe that's his name. He encouraged him to get better, to try again, and to try for the team again. And Mr. Russell didn't have the greatest relationship with older white men because growing up in Louisiana, he dealt with Jim Crow segregation as well as out here in the Bay Area. So he didn't have the greatest relationships with white people, particularly white men. But he said that his high school coach, really made an impact in his life next to his father. So he took the coach's advice and got better. Well, his senior year, McClymonds won the 1952 state championship, California state championship. And his teammate on that team was Frank Robinson, the great late Frank Robinson. He played basketball and baseball. Baltimore Orioles legend, the first black manager in baseball, Mr. Frank Robinson, played for the Cincinnati Reds, Mr. Frank Robinson. May he rest in peace. Mr. Russell went on to graduate from McClymonds, and he attended the University of San Francisco, right here across the bay from where I'm living. Played for the Dons, the San Francisco Dons. He led them to the 1955 and 1956 NCAA championships, back to back. After leaving the University of San Francisco in 1956, he was selected to the men's Olympic team in Melbourne, Australia. He led them to the gold medal. So, in the span of 5 years, he won a championship in high school, two college championships at the University of San Francisco, and the gold medal at the 1956 Olympics in the span of about 5 years. So that's four championships in 5 years. He was drafted by the St. Louis Hawks in 1956, 57, I believe it was. Traded to the Boston Celtics. And from there, the legend began. He won his first championship in 1957 as a rookie. Played with the great Bob Cousy, who's still with us. I think Mr. Cousy is 94 years old. He's still with us. Played with the great Sam Jones and Casey Jones on those Tom Heinsohn on those championship Celtic teams. They won 1957, 1959, 1960, 1961, 62, 63, 64, 65, and 66. They won 8 straight championships from 1959 to 1966. He had his 9th championship by 1966 as he won his first one in 1957. Mr. Russell was named the player coach by Red Auerbach, who was retiring. That's the coach he played for with the Celtics. He was retiring, and he made Mr. Russell a player coach. Actually, that's when he won his 1967. They lost to the 76ers. But then in 68 and 69, the Celtics won the next 2 championships, bringing a total of 11 championships. Mr. Russell was the first Black head coach in the NBA, and he won 11 championships. 11. If that don't right there don't tell you that he's the GOAT, then I don't know what does. I mean, if sports is about winning, and winning is what make you a legend in the NBA, then Mr. Russell he exemplifies that. 11 championships in 13 seasons. Come on now. Yes, MJ was great with 6, Kobe 5, and Kareem with 6. But last time I checked, 11 is more than 6 and 5. I mean, last time I checked. But let me just read you Mr. Russell's resume. So I mentioned 11-time NBA champion, 1957, 1959 through 1966, again in 68 and 69. 5-time NBA most valuable player, 1958, 1961 through 63, and again in 1965. 12-time NBA All-Star, 1958 to 1969. NBA All-Star Game MVP, 1963. 3-time All-NBA First Team, 1959, 63, and 65. 8-time All-NBA Second Team, 1958, 60 through 62, 64, 66 through 68. NBA All-Defensive Team in 1969. 4-time NBA Rebounding Champion, 1958, 1959, 1964, and 1965. NBA Lifetime Achievement Award he won in 2017. He's on the NBA anniversary teams, the 25th, 35th, 50th, and 75th. Let me repeat that. He's on the NBA anniversary teams for the 25th, 35th, 50th, and 75th anniversaries. All 4. Number 6 is retired by the Boston Celtics, and rightfully so. 2-time NCAA championship, as I mentioned, 1955 and 1956. NCAA tournament most outstanding player, 1955. UPI College Player of the Year, 1956. 2-time Helms Player of the Year for 1955 and 1956. WCC Player of the Year, Western Conference, West Coast Conference. Okay, there we go. 1956 Player of the Year. Number 6 is retired by the San Francisco Dons, and rightfully so. And he also won the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which was given to him by President Barack Obama in 2011. I remember when he won that. He averaged 15.1 points per game. He wasn't really a scorer per se. He could have been, but he was an unselfish player because, again, he had John Havlicek, Tommy Heinsohn, Casey Jones, Sam Jones. He had other scorers on his team, so he was mostly the rebounder and shot blocker, and he did score some too, 15.1 points per game. He averaged 22.5 rebounds per game and 4.3 assists per game. He was elected into the Basketball Hall of Fame 1975, I believe. And yeah, just an incredible career. Just incredible. Incredible career. Like I always said, he was the GOAT. He is the GOAT, as far as I'm concerned. Mr. Bill Russell. May he rest in peace. He retired in 1969 at the age of 35. And again, he was already a legend by that time. His nemesis, or they were friends, but they were like fierce competitors, was the great Wilt Chamberlain. He said Wilt Chamberlain brought the best out of him, brought the best out of him. He made him step his game up. And Wilt Chamberlain said the same thing about Mr. Russell. They were good friends, but they were fierce competitors. You know, Wilt Chamberlain's Philadelphia Warriors and 76ers teams and Mr. Russell's Celtics teams. Despite all the accomplishments Mr. Russell had on the court, you got to remember the time that he played, the 1950s and 1960s. He played in the Jim Crow era. Mr. Russell was subjugated to, excuse me, was subjugated to a lot of racial, attacks, so to speak. Not so much on him, but on his property. He lived in Reading, Massachusetts, which is a suburb of Boston, and it was this incident where burglars broke into his home. Excuse me, get some water. Hit the like and subscribe button. Hit the like and subscribe button so you know when I'm doing videos on here, you get those notifications. Excuse me. Had to get a little bit of water there. So Mr. Russell had his house in Reading, Massachusetts, vandalized. The burglars wrote the word nigger on the wall. They spray painted on the wall, smashed his trophies, trashed his home, and if that wasn't worse, they defecated in him and his wife's bed. They defecated in their bed. When the Celtics were on the road, his garbage cans were overturned and his house was just trashed. His lawn was trashed. He went to the local police station to complain, and they said that it was raccoons. You know, it was just raccoons. So Mr. Russell um, inquired about where to get a gun permit, and so he purchased a weapon, and the raccoons disappeared. Mr. Russell wrote an article, you know, about how racist Boston was and about, you know, the incidents that him and his family were facing, and him and his family received death threats. So they notified the FBI. This is according to his daughter. I read a tweet from her yesterday. He notified the FBI. His family was receiving death threats because he wrote this article, you know, saying Boston was a flea market for racism, and just stating his frustrations with what he was going through and what his family was going through. So decades later, you know, years later, Mr. Russell requested to get the file, the FBI file, you know, his file from the feds. And he noticed that the FBI, that a few times he was called an uppity Negro that refused to sign autographs for white children. Let me repeat that again. A numerous amount of times in his FBI file, he was called an uppity Negro that refused to sign autographs for white children. Mr. Russell said that he won championships for the Celtics organization, not the city of Boston. He wasn't well received by the white Celtic fans um, because they had too many Negroes on the team. So the Celtics, they didn't sell out any games, and Mr. Russell wasn't well received. So he had a frosty relationship with Boston, the Boston media. They referred to him as a racist. He was referred to as Felton X, which Felton is his middle name, was his middle name. X, you know, like he was very militant, like Malcolm X. So he was called Felton X on numerous occasions, and he refused to sign autographs for white children because he's like, I'm out here, busting my hump, making a living, and I got to worry about my family. I got to worry about my safety on the road and while I'm at home or what have you. And I'm receiving these threats. My family's, my life, not only my life, but the lives of my family members are at stake. I can't just sit up here and just smile and forget about what I'm going through and just sign a stupid autograph. So he wouldn't do it. And he had a frosty relationship with the Boston media, mainly white media, because back in them days, the media members, the journalists in Boston were predominantly white. And Mr. Russell didn't trust them. And who could blame him? And over the years, people have said that Mr. Russell was very cold, was very mean spirited, and what so have you. But they don't have a damn clue. The man was going through hell. The man's family. He is supposed to forget about that and just sign autographs and just go about as business as usual. Forget about what he's going through. Negro, perform for us. Do what you need to do, Negro. We write your check. You're here for our entertainment. Mr. Russell was bigger than that, and they couldn't handle it. And I don't blame them. Now, the black people of Boston, they revered Mr. Russell. Black people in Boston love Mr. Russell, and he loved them back. He reciprocated the love. It just wasn't with the white fans, the white media, because of what he was going through. And who could blame him? So we touched on Mr. Russell's career in basketball, the things he went through in his life, the racial injustices he went through, which brings me to my next point. He was a fighter for civil rights. In 1963, he was at the march in Washington. Dr. King invited him to come up there with him, but he said, "You know what? The attention on me because I didn't put in the work. I'm just doing what I can, to fight for civil rights. Y'all put in the work. Y'all, we're on the battleground, so y'all take the credit for it. I'll just sit out here in the crowd. I'll just be with the people. I don't want to take any credit. I don't want any special, you know, I don't want to shine. This is your moment. I'm just doing what I can to help the movement." So he was very, very, very instrumental in the civil rights movement. He His teammates helped him. They boycotted with him. There was a story that the Celtics were playing in North Carolina or somewhere in the South, and the white players were allowed to sleep at the hotels in the town, but the black players couldn't go there. They had to go elsewhere. So the white players, by koozie, they refused to sleep at the hotel because their black teammates weren't allowed to sleep in these hotels. So Mr. Russell was very instrumental in the civil rights movement. When Muhammad Ali was going through his thing, when he decided that he wasn't going to go to Vietnam and wasn't going to get drafted, Mr. Russell stood by him. There's an iconic picture of Muhammad Ali, and to his right is Bill Russell. On his other side, to the left of him, is Jim Brown, and right next to him is Lou Alcindor, who later became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Mr. Russell encouraged a young Lou Alcindor to join the fight and join Muhammad Ali in his protest. And Lou Alcindor, he honored that request and he joined the fight. This is back when black athletes standing together meant something. It meant something. They had strength. They had strength in numbers. They had unity. This is back when it meant something. Nowadays, it doesn't, because too many of them are into this woke BS now. They're into this wokeism, all fueled by the left. That's all these athletes are about. It's all about, a social media presence on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, on TikTok, what so have you. That's all. That's what it's all about now. It's not about standing for black people. It's all about being seen, and all this wokeism BS, this wokeism foolishness. That's what it's come to now. So Mr. Russell was doing this before it was even cool, before it was even known. Jim Brown, Muhammad Ali, John Carlos, and Tommy Smith. They were doing it years before these athletes today were doing it. The only one I really give credit to and respect is Colin Kaepernick, because he wasn't doing it for show. LeBron and these other athletes, I don't really respect what they're doing, because this, 2 years ago, this hands up, don't shoot, it was all for show. It was all for the media's and the left's agenda. That's all it was for. It wasn't about the black community. It was all for show. Yes, LeBron has built a school in Akron. Yes, he's a great father and husband, and kudos to him. I salute him for that. That's great. But let's be honest. He's not a fighter for social justice. He's not a social justice warrior at all. Mr. Russell was. Muhammad Ali was. Jim Brown was. John Carlos and Tommy Smith were. Colin Kaepernick is. Not LeBron James, not Chris Paul, not Dwayne Wade. No, they're not. That's just my take on that. Feel free to disagree. But Mr. Russell received the Presidential Medal of Freedom from Barack Obama in 2011. He's just an incredible human being, great man, great father, great NBA player. As far as I'm concerned, he's the GOAT. He is the GOAT. The Mount Rushmore, number one on that mountain, number one on the NBA's Mount Rushmore is Bill Russell. Number two is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Number three is MJ. And number four, and I would put him number three. Some people, may not put him up there at all. It's the late Kobe Bryant. Those are the top four in the NBA, on the NBA's Mount Rushmore. The late, great Mr. Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Michael Jordan, and the late, great Kobe Bryant. That's my Mount Rushmore. But as far as I'm concerned, the greatest of all time in the NBA is Mr. Bill Russell. Mr. Bill Russell. Thank you for your contributions to the NBA. Thank you for what you did for Black people, what you did in your life, Mr. Russell. I know it wasn't easy. The things you went through in Boston with those racist mofos up there, I'm sorry. And for a long time, Mr. Russell held a grudge toward the city of Boston and the fans in the greater New England area, and rightfully so. I believe it was in 1999 that they did a retirement ceremony. This had years had passed, and he refused to come to Boston, and to even participate in a retirement ceremony. He wasn't there, and they retired his jersey. But he came in 1999 for a retirement ceremony for his jersey, and the fans gave him a rounding standing ovation, and it brought tears to his eyes. It was their way of apologizing to him for the past. Even though a lot of those fans weren't born, they may not have done what was done to Mr. Russell, but they felt bad and they felt compelled enough to say, we're sorry. We're sorry for what the city of Boston did, for the fans here in New England did. We're sorry, Mr. Russell. And I think he took that to heart and he accepted their apology. And the city of Boston and Mr. Russell were able to reconcile. I believe there's a statue of Bill Russell in Boston, if I'm not mistaken. They erected a statue of him, and rightfully so. The greatest Boston Celtic ever. And they had some legends play for them, but Mr. Russell stand head over all of them. He's above all of them. So my condolences to the Russell family. I'm sorry for your loss, and may Mr. Russell rest in peace. He's up there with the ancestors. Thank you, Mr. Russell. Moving on to Miss Nichelle Nichols. Miss Nichelle Nichols was on Star Trek in the mid '60s, and I believe she was in the Star Trek movies, if I'm not mistaken. She played Lieutenant Uhura. I can't think of her first name. Nayota Uhura. I believe that was her name. If I'm saying that wrong, please forgive me. She specialized in communications, what so have you. And that role was iconic because a year after the first season of Star Trek, she came to Gene Roddenberry and said that she was going to quit the show and she was going to go on Broadway because she wanted a career on Broadway. Gene Roddenberry begged her, stay on the show, please stay on the show. She said, no, I think I'm gonna leave. So he said, okay, go home and think about it. And if you feel this way, I think it was the weekend or whatever. He told her, go home and think about it. And if you feel the same way, when we meet again, then, I'll accept your letter of resignation. She went to an NAACP function and she was told that a fan wanted to speak to her. So she thought it was a Trekkie, whatever. But that fan was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He came up to her. He told her how much he enjoyed the show, how much he was a big fan of her, a big fan of the show. And he said that that was the only show that he and his wife, the late, great Coretta Scott King, allowed their kids to stay up to watch. He told her, he said, please, please stay on the show. Stay on there. Don't give up. You are a shining example to Black people, to children, and to women. Stay on the show because you're making a difference on this show. Your role. I'm paraphrasing here, but mostly he pretty much told her that the role that she was playing was very instrumental in the lives of very instrumental for Black people, for Black women, and for women in general, and for children to see a Black person with intelligence and with grace on the screen. And you didn't see that back in the '60s. You didn't see that that much at that time. You had Diane Carroll, and you had Cicely, not Cicely Tyson yet, but Diane Carroll. But mostly in the '60s, we didn't have Black women who were being portrayed with the elegant and grace, like a Claire Huxtable later, and a Harriet Winslow, Aunt Vivian, Aunt Viv from the Fresh Prince, and the women on in Living Single. You didn't have that. You didn't have that back in the 60s. So Nichelle Nichols was a trailblazer, and Dr. King pretty much told her that. So that compelled her, and that made her feel some type of way, and she stayed on the show and continued on it. Also, with her role, Dr. Mae Jameson, the first Black woman in space, she cited Nichelle Nichols' role as Lieutenant Uhura and her getting into NASA and becoming an astronaut. She said that made her see that, you know what, Black women could be in space, can go to space. I want to be an astronaut, and that role compelled her to be that. So Nichelle Nichols was a great pioneer. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think she got the credit that she deserved while she was alive, because she paved the way for so many Black women, where you could be strong yet feminine. And I brought this up last week. Strong yet feminine. Nichelle Nichols was that. She paved the way for Black women, for your Felicia Rashads, your Janet Herbert, Huberts, um, later Daphne Maxwell Reid, Erica Alexander, Queen Latifah, Kim Fields, Kim Coles. What's the lady that played? Uh, what's her name that played Harriet Winslow? Jo Marie Payton, I believe her name. She paved the way for these women to be strong Black women, yet feminine. Strong Black women, yet feminine. You could be elegant and graceful and strong and be proud to be Black. And I salute you, Miss Nichelle Nichols, for doing that, for showing elegance and grace, for being strong, a strong Black woman, yet maintaining your femininity. I thank you for that. And a lot of Black women, not just uh, as far as space exploration, but as far as in movie roles, TV roles, they owe that to you because you paved the way for them. And I don't think that she got the credit that she deserved. You hear about the Diane Carrolls, your Cicely Tysons. Yes, they did. They did pave the way. But Nichelle Nichols did also. We can't forget about that. We can't forget about that. So, Black people, let's honor these legends. Mr. Bill Russell, Miss Nichelle Nichols. They earned their wings this weekend. Let's remember them. Let's never forget them, and let's just enjoy what they did while they were here. You know, the work that they did while they were here. So I'm going to go back and watch old episodes of Star Trek. My father used to love them. I thought they were boring. They actually put me to sleep, but I didn't understand the significance of it as a child. But now that I'm older, almost 50 years old, I do. And so I'm just going to enjoy this beautiful sister's work, Miss Nichelle Nichols. Enjoy Mr. Bill Russell, hearing stories about him, researching more about him. Because, like I said, these were our legends, our icons, and they're gone. And we must always continue to honor their legacy and their memory. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, so you know when I'm doing, so you get notifications on when I'm doing videos on here. On that note, y'all, I'm out. Love y'all. God bless and take care. And remember, like I've always say, we may disagree. Let's agree to disagree without being disagreeable. Let's agree to disagree without being disagreeable. All right, y'all. Till next time, I love y'all. Take care and God bless. I'm out. Peace.